Hey, it's Samantha Taylor, Fit Temple. I just wanted to say hello to you from Atlanta. I actually came here for this amazing man of God's memorial service. He passed away a couple of days ago, and yes, he was 90, but wow, the impact that this man had on so many people's lives. It is just astounding. Me personally, I started listening to him when I was just recently saved over 25 years ago, and just his unfailing focus on getting into the Word, following after Jesus, making sure that Christ was the center of your life, studying the Word, and just really not compromising with what God tells you to do in the Word. And it was such an impact on my life, this man, Dr. Charles Stanley. And they say that he was in over 115 million homes a week. And he's peacefully passed away in his sleep, I believe on the 18th of April. So God had me fly out here to Atlanta to be here for the memorial. So I got to be there yesterday, and tonight at 6 p.m. they are streaming it live. CeCe Winans is going to be performing as well with the gospel singer, and just a lot of great presentation to honor such a powerful man of God and how dedicated his life was to serving Jesus. And I went into his office when I was here a couple years ago for a tour, and he's got this painting of him studying the Word, and a representation of Jesus leaning over him, pointing at scriptures in the Bible. And it was just such an amazing visual that when we listen to God and we follow after God and we listen to the Holy Spirit, that He is our guide, that He shows us where to go, He shows us what to do. And I'm going to the headquarters on Tuesday for a tour again to go back there. And it's just such an honor to be here for someone that just impacted so many people's lives, millions, hundreds of millions of people. I have researched that he has reached every nation in the entire world, and probably preached to more people in the entire world in the history of preachers that has ever existed. And it's just, where his message has actually reached. And he's such a man of God, from submitting to Christ and submitting his life, and was so humble. I'm so grateful to have been able to be a part of this man's ministry. When I got saved 25 years ago, my husband and I got into the Word a lot, and we would listen to his sermons online all the time. It was like his messages would pop up, and they would just literally be the exact message that we needed. I mean, it was just amazing. And I just, wanted to come here to celebrate and his life. And of course, it's a intense loss, knowing the amazing things that he brought to the table to us believers and to people that were gonna be believers. And it's just something that I'm just honored to be here. And I just wanted to recognize Dr. Charles Stanley for the ministry, the heart, the desire to serve, the absolute unfailing commitment to living after God and to doing what God says. And I'm standing in here right now at the First Baptist Church. This was full of over 10,000 people yesterday that came to the viewing to yesterday, and then tonight is the memorial at 6 p.m. So they are streaming it. If you can watch it streaming, just search First Baptist Atlanta, and just trying to see if you can find a streaming link. But it's interesting because this photo constantly has a light on his face. Look at that. That's from the lights from the ceiling. And when you think about what he's experiencing right now in heaven, what he is experiencing, everything that he preached. And there's a carpet cleaner going by. I would just like to give a tribute to Dr. Charles Stanley. That man was such a huge part of my life and will continue to be as the years go on. But he was like a spiritual father to me in a way, because when I got saved, I just found, his preaching, and he was just so solid and so grounded, and just not a bunch of fluff, but just great word that you could trust. And I just remember growing up for a quarter of a century in my Christian walk listening to Dr. Charles Stanley. And to think that he's in heaven right now and just imagining what he's experiencing and the good and faithful servant for the life that that man lived. He was such a godly example of living a strong Christian life and just staying with Christ. And I just watched a small little documentary of him, and they said, what do you want to be known for? And he said, I want to be known for the man who did what God told me to do and left the consequences to him. And we are to follow what God tells us to do. And it just man, it hit me when I saw that he had passed away today. And I understand he was 90, but it's just intense when that happens. And I actually got to meet him a couple of years ago. I met him a couple of times, one on my radio show about 15 years ago, because he was there for a radio show as well. And then I got to meet him 2 years ago because I wanted to go see him preach in person. So I drove all the way to Atlanta to see him preach at First Baptist Church. And it was just amazing because, this church is huge, and I always know how to get to the front just from being in a lot of seminars and whatnot. And I kind of made my way up there and found a seat, and God sat me right next to the security guard, Charles Stanley's security guard. And he saw me taking pictures and whatnot, and he goes, hey, I saw you taking photos. Where are you from? And I told him, he goes, hey, meet me after church. I'll take you back there to take a photo with them. And I'm like, that is so awesome. So I waited afterwards and then got escorted out to the back. Of course, he's a high profile person, so they had people surrounding him and escorted him to his car. And then I got to go take a picture with Charles Stanley at his car and just tell him, how much he meant to my life. And it's just an honor to be able to have done that.
As we are still mourning and commemorating and celebrating the life of our influential and most impactful leader and gospel spreader, that is Reverend and Dr. Stanley, we are seeing so many influential faith leaders, Franklin Graham, David Jeremiah, and so many others actually coming together to attend the legacy celebration service for Dr. and Reverend Charles Stanley. We are seeing so many other performers, band members, and so many artists, because it's believed that Dr. Charles Stanley was a huge lover of music. So a legacy celebration service is actually being held today on Sunday morning at the First Baptist Church in Atlanta. The service started with Pastor Robert Morris with actually a prayer revealing his early encounters with Dr. and Reverend Charles, revealing he is one who actually influenced him to actually start up a gospel spreading television, an evangelical television, and a television that is actually based on spreading evangelism to the masses. So we also saw a video of Donald Trump being played early on when the celebration service was being played. He actually commented and also prayed and wished well to the family at In Touch. He also wished the closest family, that is Andy and the rest, he wished them well. So Reverend Charles Stanley was a huge broadcaster. We all know that he died on Tuesday at the age of 90. He was known worldwide as the founder of the In Touch Ministries, which is broadcast in 180 nations and translated into close to 55 languages. He also pastored for more than 50 years at the First Baptist Church. I really loved his sermons. I cannot speak fondly enough about him because he was really very much influential in our lives and in actually trying to influence and impact us in a very huge and positive way. He stepped back from his senior pastor role, that was in 2020, and becoming a pastor emeritus and naming Anthony George as his successor. No speakers, of course, yesterday were allowed during the public viewing event, which we saw. Actually, Pastor Anthony George came out to reveal that close to 100,000 people attended that function that was held yesterday, where a public viewing was being organized. So in lieu of flowers, the family asked actually donations to be made to the ongoing mission of the In Touch Ministries. The First Baptist senior pastor, that is Mr. Anthony George, came to the mega church in 2012 from Aloma Church in Winter Park, that is Florida, and he called the magnitude of Stanley's legacy impossible to measure. In this moment in time, we are still praying and sending our deepest condolences to the family, the soul of Dr. Charles Stanley, and everyone who's close to him. Rest in power, the King, Dr. Charles Stanley.